The Young and the Restless, spoilers for Wednesday, January 21st, reveal that Jack Abbott and Nikki Newman will get caught in a scandalous moment while Sally Spectra strikes back after an infuriating discovery. For starters, Phyllis Summers will offer Kane Ashby more reassurance about their alliance. It's risky for Phyllis to go down this road with Kane, since she could lose her children if she's not careful. Daniel Romalotti Jr. and Summer Newman will no doubt lash out at Phyllis soon, but she'll remain convinced that she can do damage control. Phyllis's eye will still be on the prize, so she'll look forward to taking over Newman Enterprises alongside Kane. However, Chelsea Lawson will launch a confrontation with Phyllis eventually and try to get under her skin. There'll be some button pushing on both sides during Phyllis and Chelsea's upcoming showdown at Crimson Lights. As for Sally, she'll disapprove of Billy Abbott's choices. It sounds like Sally will find out Billy's going to move forward with a Chancellor deal and get tangled up in Kane's Newman takeover. Although part of Sally won't be surprised, another part of her will feel like Billy's blindsiding her. Billy may give Kane a yes without consulting Sally and leave her feeling like her opinion doesn't matter to him at all. At the Newman Ranch, Y&R may leave viewers in the dark on how exactly Victor Newman chose to handle Matt Clark, at least for now. Nevertheless, there'll still be tons of Newman-related drama, since Victor's going to stumble upon a private moment between Nikki and Jack. As Jack comforts Nikki over the AI attack news, he'll pull her into a warm embrace. That'll give Victor a chance to walk in on the exes, looking way too close from his point of view. The Young and the Restless, spoilers say, Victor will blow his top and deliver a warning to Jack by midweek, so stick with us for updates on the face-off that's looming. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Sharon Newman could face a horrifying discovery. Will Nick Newman overdose and cause panic? Nick checked himself out of the hospital way too soon and popped an entire bottle of painkillers before he even made it through the night. It's clear that Nick's in excruciating pain due to his leg injury, so that could drive him to make an awful decision. Toward the end of the January 20th episode, Nick pulled out a bag of Matt Clark's fentanyl pills. Considering how desperate Nick is, he may be on the verge of taking them and getting himself hooked. Y&R fans have already been speculating about an addiction storyline, so we have to consider the potentially terrible consequences for Nick. Could this also become an overdose storyline and leave Sharon in panic mode soon enough? Sharon will fret over how hard Nick's been pushing himself and will voice some concerns later this week. Nick's condition will definitely leave Sharon worried, but he may insist he's fine and hide his excessive drug use in the coming episodes. However, Nick clearly isn't fine at all, so it's easy to see that he's headed down an alarming road. If all this is building to Nick's overdose, Sharon may discover him looking lifeless somewhere and call 911 immediately. Nick may be rushed to the hospital and give his loved ones another scare. Although Nick will surely pull through whatever medical crisis might await him, there may be some terrifying moments for everyone who cares about him. Of course, Nick's OD shocker could set the stage for Summer Newman's return to Genoa City. Summer might race home to see her dad and decide to stick around if Y&R has new stories waiting for her. This could also serve as a way to bring Nick and Sharon closer in the end. Nick might credit Sharon with saving his life and commit to a future together, at least once he gets out of rehab. In the meantime, The Young and the Restless spoilers say bad news is brewing thanks to Nick's pain and the drugs he's using as a crutch, so stay tuned for updates on all the chaos. The Young and the Restless scoop for Tuesday, January 20th reveals Nick Newman will be tempted to take fentanyl. Also coming up, Victoria Newman will be angry with Billy Abbott. Plus, Nick Sharon Newman, Noah Newman, and Sienna Bacall will blast Matt Clark. And Chelsea Lawson will receive some high praise. Y&R spoilers tease Victoria will run into Billy at Crimson Lights. He'll say he can tell she's on edge, and he'll tell her he knows she's trying to save her family company. Victoria will admit Newman Enterprises is under attack. "I'm sorry for what you are going through," Billy will say. He'll ask how bad it is. Victoria will say she can't let her guard down with him. She'll change the subject and ask how it's going at Abbott Communications. Billy will say Sally Spectra's doing a great job. Victoria will tell him she knows he doesn't do well when he's not in charge. You don't want Chancellor back, do you? Billy will say he can't want something he can't have. Victoria will ask if he's going to publish an article about Newman using her as the unnamed source and wonder what their kids will think. Billy, and rightly so, will remind his ex-wife that Victor Newman hasn't hesitated to publish derogatory articles about Jabot and about him personally. Meanwhile, Nikki Newman will whine to Chelsea that she hasn't even been at the helm of Chancellor for all that long. And now she could lose the company. Poor baby. Should the worst happen, we can rebuild, Chelsea will tell her. Nikki will say she's pleased to have her standing by them. They'll discuss her relationship with Adam Newman. I'm just happy we're living in the space we're in right now, Chelsea will reply. Literally and figuratively. Then Adam will walk in and Nikki will say hello and leave. They'll discuss the fact that Chelsea was going to leave because of Jabot. But of course that's moot now. Chelsea will tell Adam the one good thing about this crisis is everyone realizes how dangerous the AI software really is. At Sharon's cottage, Nick will agree to hand Matt over to Victor. But first, he just wants 5 minutes alone with him, so they'll head out to the vehicle. Nick will tell Matt it's time for him to have his day in court. Matt will ask who the judge is, and Victor will walk outside, smiling. Me, he'll say. They'll walk Matt inside, and Noah will blast him. He'll tell him he never deserved Sienna. Then she'll say her piece. When we first met, you swept me off my feet, Sienna will tell her husband. But now I don't even recognize you. Next up is Sharon. She'll say she knows Matt isn't sorry for anything he's ever done. You tried to break me, but you failed, she'll add. We have beaten you again, and now you have nothing and no one. Nick will tell him he's a bully. You have terrorized people I love for years, he'll say. If I were you, I'd take some long, deep breaths, because if it's up to me, they're the last you'll ever take. Matt will say all their speeches were long and so self-involved. Do you plan to kill me? Nick will lunge for him, and Victor will tell his goons to get him out of there. As they leave, Sharon will ask Nick if it's really over. I hope so, he'll reply. I hope we never hear Matt Clark's name again. Sharon will tell Nick he should go back to the hospital, but he'll refuse. He'll turn to Sienna and say he didn't appreciate her going to his father. She'll say she was just trying to protect him. I don't need your protection, Nick will reply to. This is not your family. Noah will yell at Nick and say he can't speak to Sienna that way. When Nick heads outside for some air, Noah will apologize and say his father's on edge. However, Sienna will say Nick's right, she's not family. Outside, Nick will writhe in pain, grabbing his leg. He's out of his meds, but when he puts his hand in his jacket pocket, he'll find something there. Nick will pull the baggie of fentanyl out and stare at it. But will he take one? Finally, Victor will practice a little boxing and flash back to years ago when Nick was hitting the bags with him. Then he'll open the door to a closet. Matt will be sitting inside, and Victor will glare at him. So, will Victor finish him off? Keep reading The Soap Scoop for Young and the Restless spoilers and news. And make sure to also join our Y&R Facebook group or leave us a reply in our comments section. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Young and the Restless online at cbs.com. In The Young and the Restless spoilers for this week, we learn that Victor will find Jack and Nikki in a compromising position. What kind of position could that be? We know that Jack is hoping Nikki will discourage Victor from attacking Jabot Cosmetics. Does Victor overhear the two of them discussing this? Possibly at Society or the GTAC? Victor is jealous of Nikki's friendship with Jack on The Young and the Restless. So, when she gave Victor an ultimatum, Victor was furious. He viewed it as her way of choosing Jack, his rival, over him. Over the Christmas holiday, Victor and Nikki made amends. She couldn't bring herself to end their marriage, but are there any underlying feelings of resentment between them? Surely, Victor hasn't forgotten that she threatened to leave him to protect Jack, who Victor still blames for that dreadful night when Jack overdosed on pills as a way of trying to sober up a drunken Nikki. Some fans of The Young and the Restless get annoyed sometimes over Jack's blind loyalty to Nikki, when he should know darn well that she will always end up siding with Victor over him. Even Matt Clark noticed that Jack has a soft spot for Nikki since they were once married. He got a kick out of it too. Roger Howarth looks like he's having a ball playing the devious, conniving Clark. Jack figures that if anyone can convince Victor to leave Djibouti alone, it's Nikki. But what could the spoiler possibly mean? What kind of compromising position does Victor find them in? Does he catch them in a friendly embrace, which causes Victor to jump to the wrong conclusion? One of the biggest rules of soap operas is that soap characters always eavesdrop on other people's conversations. So, we think that Victor will overhear Jack and Nikki discussing possible ways that she could encourage Victor to back off of Djibouti. If that happens, then Victor will be enraged to know that Jack and Nikki are talking about him behind his back. He still can't get past the fact that Jack was the one who saved Nikki's life, and he wasn't. Another spoiler for later in the week is that Victor puts Jack on notice. He probably warns Jack to stay away from Nikki. We all know that Jack isn't going to do that. So, what will Victor do if Jack continues his friendship with her? We assume that he will threaten to attack Djibouti if the Abbotts put the company back online and make it operational again. If that's what Victor does, then how will Jack respond to that threat? Stay tuned to find out, Y&R fans. The young and the restless, Sally has been reduced to Billy's babysitter and sidekick with no life or goals of her own. At this point, she is not the same character who debuted on The Bold and the Beautiful. There's no question that Sally has always had and honestly needed a man in her life. From the moment fans met her on B&B, Sally was scheming for a guy. But at least she had her own agenda and goals. The past few years in Genoa City have seen Sally trade in her scheming ways to play second fiddle to a man, especially since she and Billy got together. Instead of working to get what she wants, Sally spends her time watching Billy like a hawk and taking her cues from him. One fan said it best when declaring on X, "I hate how Sally's only purpose is to babysit Billy and worry about him 24/7. A waste of an Emmy winner." Sally got her job at Abbott Communications because of Billy, and honestly, half the time, it doesn't even seem like she wants it. The drive she had during her fashion days is long gone. Now Sally has a wishy-washiness about her that makes her only direction come from whatever man is in her life. Granted, it wasn't so bad when Sally was with Adam or even Nick. However, Billy's constant need to destroy his life has made Sally a worrywart who constantly nags him. "I find her constant harping annoying. She needs to give us all a break," expressed a fan on Reddit. The change in Sally is a waste of Hope's talent. Fans would love to see writers give her some meatier material to work with, like when Sally and Adams lost their baby. Hope hasn't had that kind of material since then, and it's where she shines the most. The actress has many layers. All the writers need to do is have Sally channel her inner scheming ways for something that benefits her, not Billy. Perhaps this can happen through her friendship with Audra. The Young and the Restless, spoilers for Tuesday, January 20th, tease that Victoria holds Billy accountable for his recent actions. Plus, Chelsea proves herself to Nikki as Victor prepares for a battle with Matt Clark. It's going to be a day full of drama and intrigue in Genoa City. Billy thought he'd changed, or at least he promised Sally that he had. Victoria has tried to support and protect Billy since he is the father of her children. However, since Billy's deal with Kane, not only is Sally furious, but also Victoria is. Look for her to let Billy know in no uncertain terms that she is over his nonsense. She's going to hold him accountable this time. Things aren't looking great for Billy at the moment. Chelsea hasn't been entirely down with Victor's plan to hurt Billy. She's urged Adam not to do his father's dirty work. Of course, now that Billy has gone too far, Chelsea might not be such a fan of his. Things are not going well for the Newmans right now. They're closing ranks, and Chelsea is no different. She manages to prove herself to Nikki. Of course, that might not mean she's siding with Victor, though. Speaking of Victor, he prepares for battle against Matt Clark. Of course, Nick had him all tied up in his car. Does Victor even need to battle him? Perhaps because Nick is awfully injured right now, which could set the stage for more drama with Matt. The Young and the Restless spoilers are in for the week of January 19th, 26. Fans can expect Audra Charles to try to make things right. Nick Newman's medical condition could thwart his plans. Plus, Devin Winters and Abby Winters are about to get a front-burning storyline. Keep reading, and let's talk about what is coming up in the CBS soap opera. Let's start off with Audra and Holden Novak. The two got a fresh start, and Audra tried to take the high road with Claire Grace Newman. At least, that is what Audra wants everyone to think. Next, Audra and Holden will have a chat with Amy Lewis. Audra and Holden will want to apologize for their part in Damian Kane's death. While they were not directly responsible, they were there. Audra will also want Amy to know how badly she feels about deceiving Nate Hastings. Will it be enough for Amy to consider a friendship with Audra again? Over with Nick. He doesn't look too good. Everyone is getting really worried about Nick's medical condition. However, the man insists on being the one to handle Matt Clark. As the week progresses, Victor Newman gets ready to deal with Matt. However, by the end of the week, Sharon Newman starts to get really worried about Nick. The Young and the Restless spoilers for next week reveal that Victor will encounter Nikki Newman in an awkward position. Nikki will just happen to be with Jack Abbott. As for what else to expect, Chelsea Lawson proves herself to the Newman matriarch. Over at Newman Enterprises, Adam Newman continues helping out Victoria Newman. Speaking of Victoria, she angrily confronts Billy Abbott. However, the very next day, Billy ends up leaving Sally Spectra completely blindsided. Phyllis Summers debates with Kane Ashby. On that same day, Victoria manages to fire a shot at Kane. Fans can also expect Mariah Copeland to continue to be haunted by Ian Ward. That connects to a big upcoming story for Devin Winters and Abby Winters. So stay tuned. Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most during the week of January 19th, 2026? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Remember to keep watching the soap on CBS or Paramount Plus to find out what happens next. On the Monday, January 19th episode of The Young and the Restless, Sharon learned about Nick's plan. Nick refused to back down, and Victoria and Adam protected their family. At Crimson Lights, Esther voiced surprise to see Chelsea there, working late. Chelsea reported that she'd recovered from the flu, and she promised she wasn't contagious. Chelsea added that she'd needed to get out of the house because she'd been going stir-crazy. Esther headed to the patio, but glanced back and saw Chelsea's computer screen. Esther worriedly asked if Newman Enterprises was under attack. Chelsea squirmed. Chelsea claimed that what Esther had seen was gossip and out of context. Chelsea continued that the news exaggerated things, but Newman was doing just fine. Esther expressed relief and marched off. Chelsea sent a text message to Adam, requesting that he meet her because the rumors were spreading fast. At the cottage, Noah worried that Nick seemed like he was in pain, but Nick insisted that he was fine. Nick realized that he only had one pill left. Noah offered to fetch some water, but Nick swallowed the medication without it. Noah wondered what Nick intended to do with Matt, but Nick replied that his son didn't need to know. Noah worried that his father wasn't thinking clearly between the pills and the pain. Sienna eavesdropped from the stairs as Nick barked that Matt needed to disappear and no one could talk him out of it. Noah preferred to call the police, but Nick warned that they couldn't take the chance because Matt always managed to get out. Noah cautioned that what Nick was planning could put him away for the rest of his life. "Not if I don't get caught," Nick reasoned. Noah threatened to call the cops himself, but Nick said he'd be gone before the call ended. Nick struggled to get up, and Noah protested that his father belonged in the hospital. "No!" Nick bellowed as Sienna scurried upstairs, unseen. At the new Newman ranch, Adam reported to Victor that their IT team had created an algorithm that might buy them time, but they wanted to run more tests on it. Victor responded that they didn't have time and they had to move then. Adam asked what else he could do, and Victor suggested they turn back the clock to before the mess had started. Victor huffed that he'd be damned if he allowed Kane and Phyllis to destroy everything he'd built. Victoria entered and reported that her interviews with the press had been exhausting, but she denied all the rumors. Victoria contemplated how long it would be before the software sold off everything they owned, but Victor swore it wouldn't happen. Victoria argued that it was already happening at warp speed. Victor considered alerting the authorities to what Kane and Phyllis had done, but Victoria pointed out that Victor had done the same thing to Arabesque, so he'd be looking at spending years in court or jail. Sienna arrived and insisted on speaking with Victor alone. Adam invited Victoria to join him and Chelsea at the coffee house. Victoria introduced herself to Sienna before she and Adam headed out. Sienna informed Victor that she'd overheard Noah trying to talk Nick out of killing Matt, but Nick hadn't been listening. Sienna hoped Victor could do something to stop Nick. Sienna noted that it had seemed like Nick was in pain and not making sense. Victor assured her that she'd made the right decision by letting him know. Sienna insisted that Matt needed to pay for his crimes, but not in a way that would make Nick no better than Matt and would drag Noah into an ugly mess. She lamented that Noah had already paid a big enough price for being with her, and he shouldn't have to pay even more. Sienna admitted that she was in love with Noah, but she didn't think they had a chance of a real future together. She explained that she felt like a stranger there and she missed LA, but she sensed that Noah wanted to stay in Genoa City. Sienna regretted that Noah had almost died because of her, and she believed he'd eventually resent her for it. Victor suggested it would be best for her to go back home after the ordeal with Matt was over. Meanwhile, Nick adamantly refused to go back to the hospital until he finished what he needed to do. Noah offered to make a call to get more pain medication, and Nick agreed that Noah could call the doctor, but no one else. Nick conceded that the pain and pills were making him jumpy, but he maintained that it didn't change anything. Noah fretted that he and the Abbotts were also involved as accessories, and he questioned whether Nick wanted them to pay the price too. Nick reiterated that it was his problem to solve, since Matt didn't deserve to live. Noah doubted that Nick would get away with killing Matt without suffering consequences. Nick asserted that it would be worth it if Matt couldn't hurt Noah or Sharon again. Noah anticipated that his father wouldn't be able to cross that line, since it would haunt Nick for the rest of his life. Sharon appeared and asked why Nick wasn't at the hospital. Noah informed Sharon that Nick had an unconscious Matt in the trunk of his car. A shocked Sharon asked how Nick had found Matt, and Nick said he'd fill her in once everything was taken care of. Noah clarified that his father meant getting rid of Matt for good. Sharon recounted that she and Nick had fantasized about ways to end Matt's reign of terror. "And now I can, and I will," Nick vowed. Sharon understood the impulse, but she firmly stated that she wasn't on board. She objected to Nick involving Noah in something that dangerous. Nick swore that he hadn't wanted anyone to know, but Noah stressed that he and Sharon had both become involved. Sharon inquired about Nick's pain, and he claimed it was tolerable. Noah divulged that his father was lying because he'd just taken his medication. Sharon lectured that Nick's parents and siblings wouldn't be happy with him leaving the hospital, or with what he planned to do. Sharon questioned whether Nick was even capable of doing the job with a broken leg while hopped up on meds. Sharon envisioned Matt escaping again, but Nick reasoned that it wouldn't happen if Matt were dead. Sharon cautioned that killing someone wasn't something he could brush aside and forget. Victor burst into the cottage, followed by Sienna. Victor informed Nick that Sienna had turned to him after hearing Nick and Noah fighting. Nick assumed Victor was there to stop him. Victor demanded that Nick hand Matt over to him, but Nick refused. Victor observed that Nick was in obvious pain and wouldn't be able to fight with a grown man. Nick repeated that it was his problem to solve because Matt had attacked his family. Victor pointed out that he was the head of that family, and an attack on Nick, or anyone else, was an attack on him. Victor pledged to take care of Matt. "Not this time," Nick countered. Nick told his family to go upstairs and give him 15 minutes. He figured that when they returned, he'd be gone, and they'd never know where he'd gone or what he'd done. Victor advised Nick not to let his stubbornness lead to making mistakes. Sharon anticipated that if Nick followed through with his plan, he'd turn into another version of Matt. Victor told Nick to leave Matt up to him. Nick was adamant that he needed to be the one to put an end to things after the decades Matt had tormented him and his family. Noah swore that Nick was already his hero, and he wanted to make sure his dad stayed safe and out of trouble. Sharon empathized with Nick's desire to put a stake through Matt's heart, but she knew from painful experience that he wouldn't walk away feeling better or vindicated, only hollow. Sharon and Noah urged Nick to let Victor do what it took to make sure Matt was out of their lives. Nick asked what Victor would do if Nick turned Matt over. Victor thought it was better if no one knew. Sharon and Noah were satisfied just knowing Matt would be taken care of. Sienna agreed, and she noted that Nick didn't look great. Victor conceded that Nick would finish Matt off under normal circumstances, but it wouldn't happen in Nick's condition. Victor ordered Nick to take care of himself and not worry about Matt. At the coffee house, Victoria and Adam joined Chelsea, who groaned that her denials had only angered the reporters. Chelsea found it ironic that they were on the receiving end after they'd broken the story about Jabot going offline. Victoria resolved to stick to the strategy of making the press work for every piece of information. Chelsea clucked that she couldn't spin it forever when Newman was being eaten alive. Victoria confided that she was worried about Victor. Adam recognized that they could all be left with nothing, and ignoring what was happening wouldn't change that there was nothing they could do to stop Newman from sinking. Yet, Victoria stated, adding that they were there to think of options. Victoria refused to let Kane steal everything Victor had spent his life building, since losing the company would kill their father. Victoria wailed that her parents had been trying hard to be masters of the universe, but they were hurting and scared, and it made her want to strangle Kane and Phyllis even more. Victoria and Chelsea compared notes about how the attack was affecting their kids. Victoria proclaimed that the Newman legacy still meant something, and it broke her heart to think it could be stolen from their children. Chelsea insisted that nothing would ever change, that the kids adored Victor and Nikki. Victoria and Adam pledged to defend their family's company. Adam mused that it was hard to imagine a world without their father in it. Victoria declared that they couldn't expect Victor to continue being ready to give up his life for them. Adam figured that they were smart and resourceful, and he offered to dial back up his devious side for a good cause. Victoria considered it time they put the screws to Kane and Phyllis. "And break them," Adam growled. Tension and drama continue to rise on The Young and the Restless. Spoilers show this week's video previews that Victoria fights to save Newman Enterprises from Kane and Phyllis, while Noah to keep Nick from making a mistake with Matt Clark. Plus, Jack accuses Billy of taking advantage. Here's a sneak peek of what's ahead for January 19th to 23. Jack's focus has been on Jabot and Victor recently, but the Abbott patriarch switches his attention from business to family matters. When Billy starts to show signs of reckless behavior again, it's time for Jack to step in. Sally's is becoming concerned about Billy's behavior, especially his attitude towards the Newmans. When Kane offers Billy the opportunity to run Chancellor, it'll be the perfect way to stick it to Victor, but not if Jack has his say. As expected, tensions immediately arise during the brothers' confrontation. Billy declares he's not taking advantage of anyone, but Jack says, "It sure as hell looks that way to me." Can Jack keep his brother from making a big mistake? Or is Billy about to lose everything in his latest downfall? Speaking of Kane, he and Phyllis are on board the train, celebrating their victory. They got one over on the great Victor, and now they're about to be the top dogs in Genoa City's business district. Kane proudly proclaims that Newman Enterprises is essentially theirs, and they just need to take control of the company. "Over my dead body," Victoria says as she enters the train. The Newman princess is furious with Phyllis and Kane for stealing her family's company, and won't hold back in her tirade. Although Phyllis and Kane might have the upper hand now, Victoria isn't going to let them get away with this. If they thought Victor was a tough adversary, that's nothing compared to Victoria, who's just as ruthless as her dad. At Sharon's cottage, Noah and Nick are dealing with another problem. After retrieving Matt Clark from Jack, Nick and Noah are now left wondering what to do. As Matt lies unconscious in Nick's trunk, a worried Noah asks if Nick plans to kill Matt. Unbeknownst to them, Sienna is eavesdropping on their conversation and becomes alarmed at Nick's declaration. "That man needs to disappear, and there's no one who's going to talk me out of that," Nick tells his son. The Young and the Restless, spoilers for the next 2 weeks, suggest some surprises. For one thing, a child gets kidnapped. Kane Ashby is crushed. Also, what is the future for Nick Newman? Keep reading, and let's talk about what is coming up in the CBS soap opera. Before getting to the 2-weekers, let's discuss what is coming up from January 19 to 23. Noah Newman came across Nick with an unconscious Matt Clark in the trunk. Noah was trying to find out his father's plan when Victor Newman burst in the door with Sienna Bacall. Everyone can see that Nick isn't in good shape. However, nobody can seem to talk Nick out of taking care of Matt personally. Nick is taking pills to control his agony and pain while dealing with Matt. While he's just trying to make it through to save his family, this could turn into an addiction storyline. Perhaps the pills will have Nick acting really out of character and making some dangerous decisions. Over with Billy Abbott. He will likely take Kane's offer. However, when that happens, Victoria Newman explodes. Not only that, but it seems that Billy's decision leaves Sally Spectra completely blindsided. Yes, again, it might be time for Sally to cut her ties with Billy. Victoria will also have a confrontation with Kane, as well as Phyllis Summers. The only thing that could really crush Kane is Lily Winter's continued disappointment. So maybe Victoria threatens to tell Lily what he's done. There is also Mariah Copeland, who is under hallucination Ian Ward's control. The woman has pushed Tessa Porter and Aria Porter Copeland away. At the same time, she keeps mentioning Dominic Newman Abbott Winter's Chancellor. The Young and the Restless, spoilers for the week of January 26th, reveal that Devin Winters and Abby Winters realize that their son is missing. Abby and Devin will do whatever is necessary to find Dominic. Meanwhile, Jack Abbott and Victor's feud could intensify. They will have to join forces in the near future, but for now, it's war. Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to keep watching the soap on CBS or Paramount Plus to find out what happens next. The Young and the Restless spoilers update for Monday, January 19th reveals that Sharon Newman will face some alarm bells, while Kane Ashby gets targeted, and Sienna Bacall makes a sneaky move. At the Newman Ranch, Adam Newman will bring Victor Newman some potentially good news. The IT team will be working on an algorithm designed to make the AI program go after bogus targets, but it'll need more testing. Victor will argue that there's no time for that, so Adam will agree to pass along his approval to use the algorithm right away. Victoria Newman will come along and complain about the struggles of doing damage control. When Victor suggests sending the cops after Kane and Phyllis Summers, Victoria will remind Victor that he used the AI software on Arabesque. If the Newmans bring the authorities in on this, they could be tied up in court for years or even face prison time. At the coffee house, Esther Valentine will spy something about the Newman attack on Chelsea Lawson's laptop, but Chelsea will act like it's just meaningless gossip. Chelsea will eventually text Adam asking her to meet up since all the negative Newman buzz is gaining speed. At Sharon's cottage, Noah Newman will keep pushing Nick Newman to confess his plans for unconscious Matt Clark, who'll still be outside in the car trunk. When Noah worries about Nick killing Matt, Nick will insist no one's changing his mind about making Matt disappear for good. Sienna will eavesdrop on Nick and Noah before turning to Victor for assistance at the main house. After Victoria meets Sienna, she'll head to Crimson Lights with Adam. Adam and Chelsea will be willing to dial up their devious side when it comes to protecting Newman Enterprises. Victoria will do some brainstorming with the duo as they mull over a way to strike back at Kane and Phyllis. Back with Victor, he'll listen as Sienna updates him on what she overheard at Sharon's place. Victor will find out that Nick has unconscious Matt and is threatening to kill him despite Noah's disapproval. Sienna will open up to Victor about her feelings for Noah, but she won't see a long-term future for them. Victor will seem like he's warming up to Sienna a bit, but he'll agree that maybe she should return to Los Angeles after the Matt nightmare concludes. At Sharon's house again, she'll come downstairs and find out the alarming Matt situation as well. Sharon will understand why Nick would want to kill Matt, but she won't like that Noah's involved now and will suggest Nick would be haunted by his actions. Nick will disagree on Monday's Y&R episode, but then Victor will barge in with Sienna and insist he should be the one to handle all this. Victor will push Nick to let him take care of Matt while Nick gets more medical attention. Sienna, Noah, and Sharon will be on board with that plan despite Nick's complaints. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Nick will be outnumbered here, so stay tuned to see how Victor will ultimately deal with Matt. Young and the Restless, 2-week spoilers for January 19th into 30, 2026, thrill as Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers are taking no prisoners. Let's jump in. On Monday, January 19th, we've got Chelsea Lawson Newman dealing with a media disaster. She deflects Esther Valentine when she asks about Newman Enterprises, saying, "Oh, it's just a rumor." Chelsea texts Adam Newman that things are getting worse in the press. Adam lets Victor Newman know the IT team may be able to trick the AI with fake targets. Victor vows they won't lose their empire to lowlifes like Kane and Phyllis. Victoria Newman mentions it's a mess in the press, but Adam promises he and Chelsea are fighting it. Victor wants to call the cops on Kane and Phyllis, but Victoria has to remind her dad, Victor, that he also used the illegal AI, so he can't report anybody. Noah Newman is alarmed by Nick Newman's actions on Monday because he's got Matt Clark tied up in his trunk. Nick gets angry about Noah's prying and asks about his pain as Nick knocks back his last pain pill dry. Sienna Bacall eavesdrops on them talking about killing Matt. Nick says Matt's going to disappear permanently. Noah wants to call the cops, and Sienna creeps out and runs over to the new ranch to tattle to Victor. Meanwhile, Nick is reminding Noah that Matt almost killed him twice. Noah wants to know if that's Nick talking or the pain pills, and his dad loses it on Noah. Then Nick says sorry, and in the next breath, asks Noah to call his doctor for more pills. Sharon Newman walks in and asks why Nick is out of the hospital, and Noah tells her that Nick has Matt knocked out in the trunk. Nick's lying about his pain level and keeps on about how he has to take Matt out. Sienna tells Victor she's afraid Noah and Nick are going to end up in trouble with the law. Sienna also tells Victor that as soon as the Matt thing is resolved, she's going back to LA. She loves Noah, but thinks eventually he will resent her. Plus, Sienna knows Noah wants to be in Genoa City, and she doesn't. Victor agrees with Sienna that it's best she makes plans to leave. Victor goes with Sienna back over to Sharon's. Nick is really annoyed when Victor says he's taking Matt, and Nick is really mad and refuses, telling Victor to go focus on the Newman Enterprises crisis. Nick blasts Sienna for going to Victor, but Victor promises Nick he'll deal with Matt. So, Nick again keeps saying he wants to do it himself. Sharon's pleading with Nick to just let Victor do this. Nick wants to know the plan, but Victor says it's better that they don't know specifics. So Nick's going to protest, but Victor's going to take Matt anyway. Chelsea's dealing with more problems. Later, Victoria, Chelsea, and Adam talk about damage control. Chelsea says the press won't let up. Adam wants to keep basically lying and denying, but Chelsea says they can't just keep spinning it. Adam jokes about kidnapping Phyllis and forcing her to shut down the AI. Chelsea talks about Phyllis being selfish and hurting everybody around her. Victoria is worried about Victor and the toll the stress is taking. Adam fears Newman's a sinking ship, and Victoria wants to ruin Kane because she says if they lose Newman Enterprises, it will kill their father. Victoria is devastated, ironically, that her children could lose their legacy. It was fine for Victor to use the AI to steal the legacy from Kane's kids and plan to use it so that Jack Abbott's kids and grandkids don't have a legacy, but it's bad when it's done to them. That's typical Newman hypocrisy. Tuesday, January 20th. We have Victor ready to take on Matt, having him out of Nick's hands. He wants to do this personally, but is Victor going to pick a physical fight with Matt? If so, I hope Victor plans to bring security along. Otherwise, Matt could get the better of him. Plus, dangerous dirty cop Annie Stewart is still on the loose. Nikki Newman is impressed with Chelsea and her efforts at Newman Media during the crisis. Victoria goes and rips Billy Abbott a new one. She wants him to answer for his actions and his choices. It looks like Victoria may find out Billy is going to work with Kane and Phyllis to take over Chancellor. Also this week, Billy gets read the riot act by his brother Jack. Billy insists he's not doing anything wrong, but Jack disagrees. He may worry that if Billy gets his hands on Chancellor, Victor may double down on coming for Jabode. Of course, Billy is going to say that's not going to be an issue. The bottom line is he wants Chancellor. Wednesday, January 21st. We've got Victor catching Nikki looking too close to Jack. It's a hug in the living room of the new ranch, not off in some secret room. Victor is going to read it the wrong way and make accusations. Sally Spectra is blindsided by Billy this week. It looks like Billy is going to take Kane's offer to run Chancellor. That's Billy's weakness, so it's no surprise, but Sally is going to be crushed. Also this week, Sally's on the Kane train. She may be going to confront Billy or Kane or both. Phyllis stands firmly with Kane. Of course, Phyllis is all in. She's deluded herself about her kids being okay with what she's doing, and Kane doesn't have too much to lose. Thursday, January 22nd. Sharon is increasingly worried about Nick. He's popping pills like Skittles and plotting murder. Victor confronts Jack, no doubt because he caught Nikki and Jack in each other's arms. I'm sure Victor will rant at Jack, telling him, "Don't touch my wife." This week, Kane tells Phyllis that all of Newman Enterprises and the subsidiaries are pretty much theirs. They just need to take control formally. Victoria enters and says, "Over my dead body." She shows up to the Kane train and plans to hit him where it hurts. I don't know if Victoria is going to slow his roll any. Friday, January 23rd. Mariah Copeland gets a haunting message. Maybe it's from the not-so-dead Ian Ward or somebody she knew from the past, which was the cult she grew up in. Trouble's coming for Devin Hamilton and Abby Newman. They have a storyline kicking off with Tessa Porter, Daniel Romalotti, Mariah, and a drive-by from Christine Williams when somebody needs a lawyer. Audra Charles and Holden Novak go make amends with Amy Lewis, likely about Damian Kane and his death. And Audra's split from Nate Hastings because of her Dirty Victor deal. For the week of January 26th through the 30th, we have the kickoff of February sweeps. It starts on Thursday, January 29th, and it's going to run all the way through February 25th. This week, we're going to have things in high gear. Matt's situation comes down to a big final showdown, likely during the sweeps. Whatever Victor has planned for Matt this week, I don't think it's going to be the final big boss battle. I think that's going to come later in sweeps, around mid-February. Victor scrambles to save Newman and stop Kane and Phyllis. Unless Adam's solution, giving the AI fake targets, kicks in, it seems hopeless. Already divisions are missing and assets are gone. It seems beyond repair. Nick spirals, and when his doctors cut him off of the prescription pain pills, he is going to struggle. Mariah's situation grows more perilous as she gets further away from family. Meanwhile, Tessa gets closer to Daniel, and she is going to file official divorce papers. I wonder if Lauren Fenmore is going to represent her. Plus, Jack is worried about Kane, Phyllis, and Billy conspiring, and whether they pose a danger to Jabot. Billy's desperation to get Chancellor may cost him Sally. And maybe Jack too. Sienna's planning to pack off to LA, and Noah's going to be hurt. But Audra will probably be pretty happy to wipe his tears. Michael Baldwin struggles as others cheer Victor's downfall, even Lauren, and Michael's not going to like that.